Nothing ever. That's the thing I love about it. We can quantify it.
Tons of live music going on as well. If you go to the website, kerrvillecrafted.com, you'll get all the details on that.
One of the things I love about Kerr County is we have this amazing art scene.
It is amazing.
And
like of all types and variety, all of it.
Now,
it's not
granted,
just one thing.
It's granted that we have Nancy and we have Laura. They're here, but we also have this young man named Stafford. It's Squier, right?
That's correct.
Correct. Stafford is here, and you're kind of a part-time resident. Stafford, tell us a little bit about. Well, let me back up for a second. If you come to Pint and Plow, and you walk into the coffee house, there are several amazing photographs. Now, I'm a photographer. I'm okay. Stafford's on a different world, and I came through, and there's the one that I really covet, which I may have to rub 2 nickels to buy, but is the one of the gas pumps.
I like that
out
too.
there. It's just spectacular.
Yeah.
And you kind of described some of your work as a little bit melancholy, and I'm like, well, I don't know, man. It's just something. It's something to behold. Stafford, welcome to the show.
It's good to be here.
Good to have.
Inviting me.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell us a little bit. How did you find Kerrville? How did you find us here? And because you're originally from like the Seattle area, right?
Yeah, I grew up in Portland, Oregon, and then I spent 25 years at Microsoft and Corbis in Seattle. And then it's a long story. And then I moved to Santa Fe, New Mexico, and helped run an art school there.
Oh, nice.
And I met a beautiful woman in Santa Fe, and she was from Texas.
Oh, really?
And fell in love.
Yeah.
And got married. And we needed to move to Kerrville to be closer to her family because her mother's going through some health issues.
Okay.
So I can work wherever I have an internet connection.
That's the best way to work, I think. And so, but your work though. I mean, I looked through your website. Let me show everyone the website here. This is Stafford's website, and I would say that this feels like New Mexico on the right. This could be anywhere in Texas. I mean, you have a real Texas feel already of photography here. And how would you describe your work?
So what I'm trying to do with my work, I talk about some of the darker tones and things like that. Is as a big fan of a philosopher named Immanuel Kant. He said there's a priori and priori conditions of experience, and I think it's the a priori conditions of experience of those things behind experience.
By the way,
experience possible.
Hold that thought for a second. This is the first time that Immanuel Kant has been mentioned on the show. Thank you, Stafford. You've elevated already.
Anyway, a long-winded way of saying it is that a picture is of something, but if it's a good picture, it's about something.
Yeah.
And the about something, when it's fundamentally really good, elicits emotions that are somewhat unexplainable. It's those things that make the hair on your arms, rise up or make your heartbeat come up. And that's what I'm trying to get at. And, you said I was a good photographer. There's a great scene in, I think it's in Good Will Hunting.
Yeah. Where
Will's character is talking to the math professor.
Yes.
And he's saying there's a difference between you and me, right? Or the math professor is saying the difference between you and me. And he's saying, I'm good enough to understand the difference between you and me. I understand that you are the one that can do things that are really, phenomenal.
Right.
And I'm kind of that guy that understands the difference between good and great.
Yeah.
And I'm good, but I'm trying to get that one step closer.
One step closer. I'd say you're great, quite frankly, because I think, though, if you're going through these photos kind of slowly here, you get a sense of Stafford's work. Tell us what do you... Like, to me, fundamentally, I understand what you're doing, but tell me about, your process. What are you shooting digital? Are you shooting film? What's your kind of philosophy?
So right now I'm shooting digitally exclusive,
and
I have a very high quality Canon printer, which is wonderful. The gamut on it is huge. But I love film. I grew up shooting film.
Yeah.
And in the back of my head, I want to get a shipping container and build a wet lab.
Yeah. Right.
And I think the only reason I really want to do that is that I want to shut the door, turn the safe light on, and go in there with a good bottle of wine and listen to music and not be disturbed.
Right.
That was the wonderful thing about the darkroom.
The beauty of this too is, I flirt with shooting film every once in a while, and I looked at it the other day. I was like, actually, interesting point about photography. the movie, there's a movie out called Civil War, which is kind of bleak, but it's essentially about combat camera photographers, in contemporary terms. And one of the one character who's a 23-year-old, she shoots almost exclusively with film. And I was just like, oh my God, how annoying is that? And I went through and I was like, but they do. There's the movie's smart because it addresses that issue. Like she's able to process her film in the field and have enough chemicals to do it, and then scans everything into her phone, which I'm like, oh, that's off the shelf right now. That's available to us right now. So you could shoot film if you wanted to, and you could process it in the field if you needed to. So there is that difference. I mean, people still forget. Like I don't know about you, but I have the newest Canon mirrorless cameras. They shoot, 35, 40 megapixels, but still not as good as film. So
Yeah.
I mean, what's your philosophy on that, on the difference between digital and film?
Well, film obviously has grain in it,
Mm-hmm.
and that was the big thing even in cinematography. When digital cameras first came out, people didn't like looking at movies that were shot digitally because they were too sharp, they were too clear.
Yeah.
And people had to emulate grain. So that's one thing. I think with film also, there are fewer variables that are actually completely under your control, because in film you're dealing with all the components of photography, of exposure, aperture, all the things, and then it's chemistry. It's the chemistry of the film stock, and it's the chemistry of your developer, and then it's time and temperature. And those are the variables you have to manipulate your medium. In digital, you can do whatever the heck you want.
Right.
So sometimes those constraints can create wonderful sort of accidents. I kind of like the control of digital photography.
Yeah.
I always relate back to Ansel Adams because he came up with the zone system, which is all about controlling photography
Right.
from a very, very controlled perspective. And I think he would have completely loved Photoshop.
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely. Can you imagine? I mean, well, the thing about Ansel Adams, people don't realize is that not only was he a world-class artist, but he's also a world-class chemist. I mean, a lot of his magic was in the darkroom. Yep. And that's something. It's almost a lost art in some ways. That. I mean, I learned how to do process film, and I quickly lost it.
Yeah.
I go in the dark room, and I was like 19, and I would, get the stuff out. I could kind of do it. I could kind of make my own stuff, but the control you have over digital, know.
And the thing, even when you're doing, I had a conversation with a friend of mine earlier, last week. Sort of talking about the importance of putting ink on paper and the importance of doing large format prints.
Yeah.
Because you can get away with murder on a digital file that is presented on a computer or certainly on a cell phone.
Yeah, right.
Because it's 2 by 2 inches. You can make terrible edits and they never show up. But when you have to go like 30 by 30, every blemish shows up.
Every blemish shows up.
And it's a real art form to create a high quality digital print.
Right. Yeah, I have a print up here, this one of George Eichner way up there on top. And George Eichner is like, why is my photo so small compared to everybody else? And I was like, well, listen, George, here's the deal. I had to shoot that. You're in the back of the orchestra, and I had to shoot that, and then I had to crop it to get you into it, and that's about as big of an image as it could make, And he's like, oh, okay, all right. He was fine with it, so. But the image of Conrad worked there. It's 30 by whatever that size, 30 by 40. That one is full frame. I didn't do anything to that.
Right.
I just made it black and white and said, here you go. So, do you do a lot of work in Photoshop, or do you? I mean, what kind of things do you test the boundaries on with Photoshop? I'm always amazed at what people can do in Photoshop.
Yeah, I try and keep the photographs looking like photographs.
Right.
But I do a lot of work in Photoshop.
Yeah.
Just like any good photographer, when they're printing, you do a lot of work on figuring out what your exposure is. You do a lot of work trying to figure out what your development time is. You do a lot of work trying to figure out what chemical to develop things in. And then you do a lot of work dodging and burning. And in Photoshop, I do a lot of selective layering to create depth in the pictures.
Right.
So I'm changing different tonal ranges and sometimes changing a little bit of the sharpness in certain areas to accentuate certain places.
Right.
Just like in painting, you want to use those different tools to create separation and depth. I like to think of being in the darkroom or the digital darkroom as being, that's like my painter's world.
Right.
And the negative or digital negative is just what Adams talked about this. the negative is the notes on the paper, and the print is the performance.
Right.
And that's what you're trying to
This
do.
is a stunning image right here. This woman in the water here. This is stunning. And of course, dogs always make good subjects, no matter what. So dogs in beds could be a whole thing. They could get calendared out of that. Do you like shooting people or places, or what is your jam?
I like shooting all of it right now, but I'm trying to hone in on a couple of projects.
Okay, there's a selfie.
Yeah.
That's a solid photo.
Because I know I can make good photographs, but I think to be the next level of photographer, you actually have to start saying something.
Yeah.
And I've been talking to a dear friend of mine, a wonderful photographer named Norman Mauskoff, who did a book on rodeo, and he did a book on the blues, and he did a book on descendants in New Mexico, indigenous cultures.
Yeah.
And he's like, Stafford, you've got to start honing in on something. So
Yeah.
I think I'm going to do 2 projects while I'm here in Kerrville. One is focusing on rodeo culture, but small, but the culture around rodeo, not exactly just the events, because there's a whole subculture around it, and I think it's an art form.
Yeah.
And
I would agree with you on that.
Yeah.
But I'm one of those guys that roots for the animal to win.
Yeah, and I do too, in a lot of respects.
Yeah.
But I still think culturally, it's an interesting story, and it's not just the pictures of horses in the arena. It's the backstory about it.
Exactly. And I remember one time my first experience covering a rodeo was bullfighting, was bull riding. And I got up close to them, like, oh my God, those things are disgusting. They're just blowing snot everywhere and everything. So but then the guys who ride those bulls, like, they're piling into a car and they're driving for hours and they're putting their life on the line. People don't realize they're not hurting the animal by being on its back. They might get launched into space. So it's a fascinating story. Exactly. And, the thing I like about your work, too, is that, the drama you capture, that one particular piece we saw a few minutes ago where, the sky is part of the character of that as well. And I always admire those kinds of pieces. So how are you liking Kerrville?
I like it a lot. Moving here from the Pacific Northwest is, culturally and geographically, it's very different.
Yeah.
And somebody asked me about it the other day, the difference between the Northwest and Texas Hill Country. And the Northwest, the beauty's in your face.
Yeah.
It's right up there. You're looking at Mount Rainier if you're climbing or something, and it's there. The beauty here is more subtle.
Yeah.
And there's a subtlety in it which I love because it's more akin to poetry as opposed to someone screaming in your face, look at me. So there's a subtleness to the line of the hill. There's a deep history, which is interesting to try and
Let me tell you,
out.
you'll see a lot of this in the Hill Country. This is like, this guy's getting ready to go in HEB. Yeah, I mean, you're right. I have that same question of people ask me, like, well, what do you like living, but why do you live in the Hill Country? What is it like? Isn't it like living in California? I'm like, no, it's not. Stop it. It's not like living in California. There's a cool river and there's cool trees here. There isn't a million people trying to get down the freeway either. So there is that beauty. And I like people who say, oh, it's so boring to drive. I'm like, I don't think it's boring at all to drive through West Texas. I think it's fascinating. We have a couple landscape painters here too. They know that. They know that drill. So
the other thing I love is how welcoming people have been. In Seattle, you've got what's called, quote unquote, the Seattle freeze. People aren't initially welcoming, but people are still very, very nice. But in Texas, I mean, everyone just says
everyone's
hello.
different,
Totally
right?
different.
Tell me what about you do?
Right. You said you had another project you wanted to work on. So what does that look like?
So I've been toying around with the idea of doing something on country music.
Oh, okay.
And I've been spending a fair amount of time up in Lukenbach because I like Lukenbach because that's where you go see musicians that other musicians learn a thing or two from.
Yeah.
They aren't always the headliner, but they're the real artists. And doing something around the subculture, around country. I'm not sure exactly what that's going to be yet, but projects you have to percolate on them for a while, and then one day you kind of go, oh, okay, this is starting to sound like something.
I've never been. Before I moved to Kerrville, I shot a few concerts, in my career, but I've never been as involved as much live music as we have here, and that photography to me is compelling because it's never boring. I mean, I look at the pictures I've been able to take, at the folk festival, things like that, and it's just like, it's just so rewarding, to capture those images of those artists. It's so dramatic. So, and one time I was like, oh, I went to Arcadia and shot a comedian once, and I was like, this is not going to be like live. It was just as good actually, because of the reactions and the emotions that comedian was explaining. So, I'm curious about your journey here. So, as well, your art is available. It's actually, I feel like it's very moderately priced.
I agree.
Yeah, I think it's very very well done, and it would just make an amazing. Which one do you have a favorite? Do you ever have like one that's like, oh?
It's kind of a Sophie's Choice moment.
Yeah, right. Which one do you pick?
Well, it's any given week,
Yeah.
right? So right now there's one that I haven't printed and put here yet. I call it Angel Wings, and it's shot in White Sands, New Mexico.
Okay.
And I love that picture because it's one of those moments where the light is just becoming right, and I probably had 5 minutes to get it.
Yeah.
So I saw this thing and I ran, I got it, and I think it's a wonderful photograph. It's a tree with the clouds behind it, which describing it doesn't quite do it justice.
Right.
Come back and check it out. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your philosophy on black and white versus color. And that's always one that I kind of like. I will do black and white. Well, I did black and white in here because these are canvas prints, and mine are canvas prints, and I feel like the printer I use, when I use color, kind of sucked originally. I didn't really care. Like, you have to oversaturate to get the color, and I didn't like the way it looked. So I went with black and white because it made more sense. But what is your philosophy on that?
So I generally shoot. Well, I always shoot in color, but I generally print in black and white.
Right.
I only use color when I feel like color significantly contributes to the story you're trying to tell.
Mm-hmm.
And when I use color, I try and use a relatively limited palette.
Yeah.
So I try and find colors that work together. Color photography is incredibly difficult to do well because a lot of pictures just have too much quote unquote color in it.
They got too much going on.
You got to reduce it down to something that is digestible.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I like this one here of the let me come back to it for a second here and get it pulled up. It's the one of this guy on the horse, and I love the way you have it positioned. I have a photographer friend he was one of my photo editors. Now let me say photo editor. I'm not. He worked for me because I was an editor, but I was not a photographer. I was never a staff photographer. But this one speaks to me because it's the positioning of it. You still are within the rule of thirds, but like you said, the color of the sky is now a part of this. And this palette is this. We're not distracted by him, but we're I don't know. To me, we're overwhelmed by the color of the blue sky as well. So.
Yeah, I think I left a lot of space on the other side for copy on that picture.
Oh, God forbid. If we don't put copy on photos.
But I do like the way it ended up working out.
Well, you could do that for copy, if you wanted to, if you were selling it like a magazine or something like that. Yeah, that'd be great. That's a nice thing to have. But I think that space works, though, in that photo, because I think it gives me, a lot of times when I crop photos, like I always think about the kind of that dead space, because to me it tells a story. Like there's this, he's looking out, and there's the wide open, as well. So maybe I'm reading into it too much, but it's delightful.
But isn't that the point and the joy of it is that you have your version, and I look at it and see maybe something different. Yeah. Just like all art.
Right. Yeah. I look at this one of this dog, and he's like, oh, man. Scratch my belly before I have to go. Rub my belly before I have to go deal with these stupid cows and stuff. So many good pieces here. Look at that mustache. That's a German mustache. Look at that guy. So many good things. Tremendous. All right, let's go over here now. Nancy, what does this make you? How does this make you feel? Nancy and Laura, you're the art teachers here. Tell us what it means to you to see these pieces.
Yeah, well, it takes me back to my art education, and I dabbled in a lot of photography, but I never got to this point by any stretch. But yeah, I love darkroom and all of that. it was great. It was a great way to spend the evening.
Right. I mean, this is the thing, right? A lot of times, well, if I want to buy photography, it's got to really sing to me. You know, I don't even have a lot of my own photography, you know, mounted at home. I have a few. By the way, just FYI, everybody, the one piece I do have mounted is the Big Boy steam engine, which is the largest steam engine in the world. It's the Union Pacific train. It's going to be in Houston and Fort Worth later this year. So if you're a train weirdo,
okay,
and let me tell you, night of those things is awesome because they're huge machines, and I guarantee you this will be one of the top tourist attractions out there.
Be.
Yeah. So, all right, you guys got a show coming up though, Nancy and Laura. What do you got? What do you got going on?
We do. A week from today is the Hill Country Artist Show and Sell.
Okay.
And it's in Hunt. This is our third year, actually, but we rebranded ourselves this year so we can bring in artists from, you know, a little bit further away than just Hunt.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll have 12 artists there this year. And we're at Bridget's Basket, which we were there last year, too. And it's a great place because we've got all the amenities. You can just make a total day of it and hear some music and eat some good food.
Yeah.
Plus buy some art.
How much money will you get out of Tom Fox? How much will he buy?
He's already purchasing.
He's already bought one.
Yeah.
That I know of.
Right.
So,
Wait a minute. Which one of you paints animals? Is it you?
I do.
You do? What do you paint, Laura? You landscapes, right?
Mostly landscapes.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a couple of cows in next week. So
Yeah.
I'm putting my big toe in the water.
Right. That's good. Because painting critters is sometimes tough,
It's
right?
different.
It's very different as well. But you know, like Stafford was saying though, and I know you both paint the hill country. What does it mean to you to paint the landscapes of the hill country?
Well, I think it goes back to what Stafford was saying too about the subtlety of it. It's just totally different. It's not so dramatic. Maybe you have to search for it a little bit harder, but I think everybody that comes here sees the beauty of it. They feel the beauty of it, even if it's not in your face.
Yeah,
they still know it's there.
It's still there.
That's why we all move here.
Right, exactly. And what about for you, Laura? What is it about the hill country in Texas that moves you?
Well, for me, I love the big vistas that I can get up on ridges.
Yeah.
But then in that same vein, I love the intricate areas along the river, underneath the bald cypress.
Right.
So it's kind of, I think when I'm looking for something to paint, it's an area that I come upon and it's a space in itself and it tugs me in. So
I think artistically, I've always been drawn to impressionism. There's a very notable movement from the 20s or the teens and 20s in California, the California Impressionism movement, which is a lot of plein air painting, as I always really enjoyed. But since I've lived here, it's like I'm just drawn to these images of Texas. It just moves me, and I can forget about everybody else. I'm sure people like, oh, I like the Piney Woods and I like the Gators in Beaumont. Do you have a favorite area? Are you like, this is your area?
I do have a favorite area.
Yeah, it's this area, right?
It's
the hill country.
It truly is. Yeah.
So if you had to buy a painting,
it would be hill country.
Hill country for sure, right?
I can enjoy and admire the other ones, but also for me growing up here, it's a different sense for me too. It's like, oh yeah, that's home. And even if I didn't live here, that's what I would probably be drawn to.
Right.
I love the plein air event at KCC. What I love about it, I mean, I can't paint. I can't anyway, but is going and seeing the artist's interpretation of our space, of our neighborhood, right? And then recognizing some of the areas and being like, oh, I've been in that spot. Or sometimes it's like, oh, I've never seen that area before.
I've never seen that before.
Yeah. I think I met a woman last night from Washington who had moved here, and I said, how did you end up in Texas? And she said, well, everybody knows that the hill country is the most beautiful part of Texas. And, I thought,
I've shared that with people all the time. I was like, I remember, when I was working up in the Metroplex for a little bit there, I'd get home on the weekends, I'd get into like Burnett or Lampasas, and I was like, back in the country. Thank God.
Well, I think in some ways it's a little more diverse as far as like what you see too. Mm-hmm. Like if you're in the piney woods, sometimes it's hard to see past those trees, right? Like it almost makes you have tunnel vision.
Right.
And here you could be somewhere that's really full of flora and fauna as well as somewhere that's not. And then you have the river, and it's just, I don't know, different animals and critters.
Right.
It's just unique.
Yeah.
It is unique. It is unique.
It really is.
And then Hunt, I think, is one of the most beautiful places in all of the country, quite frankly. And you guys get to live out there.
Oh, we do. I see the North Fork River every day.
Isn't that great? It's so beautiful out there.
Paradise.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously painting in Hunt, you can go just a few miles out of your way. Walk out the door, right? And so the story is you two worked together, right? At one point?
Well, we did.
Yeah, for how long?
We were both teachers.
Yeah.
In the same school district for probably, 15 years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You survived it.
We did.
We did.
Right. Now, they kicked you out of Houston, right? Is that where you guys are from? You're both Houston people? Like Tom Fox?
Left the day after I retired.
Did you really?
Yes.
Got out of there as
Are
quickly
you
as we
Astros
could.
fans then, or?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Are you?
Yeah. Still,
Absolutely.
So disgusting.
can't get away from that.
You can't.
It's in the blood.
I have a 12-step program to get you out of it. I will admit though that I'm becoming more and more of a Houston Texans. I kind of like to follow them right now. So, yeah, I like their quarterback. He's pretty good.
Yeah. He is.
And the Dallas Cowboys just can't seem to figure out what they're doing.
They can't.
I don't dislike anybody. I don't really care for the 49ers, but that's
That's very un-Californian of
Well,
you.
because
you're Southern California
I don't
guy.
like San Francisco teams.
Okay, all right.
I could, it was really sad that Willie Mays died. He still played for the Giants, though. I mean, come on. So, all right. Tell us again, when is the event? It's this next weekend, right?
It is. Yeah. It's Friday and Saturday.
Yeah.
June 28th, 29th.
Yeah.
10 to 4 each day. So
we'll
be
at
ready
Bridget's
to go.
Basket.
Yeah.
At Bridget's Basket, yes.
We've got 12 artists.
Okay.
Different media. We have a ceramic artist and a jewelry maker. And
We've got collage, watercolor,
mixed
acrylic,
media.
oil, of course.
Lots of variety.
Very cool.
Who was the lady that was trying to sell all of her late husband's work? It was so spectacular.
Oh, that's Pat Gordonier, but she has since moved.
She has moved.
Yeah, she moved to the East Coast.
Did she really?
She did.
Did she unload? I mean, he was prolific.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he was. I have a couple of his paintings.
I would like.
As do I.
She was just like, I know that feeling. When my grandmother passed away, she was prolific too, and we're still trying to deal with it, and they've been dead for 25 years, So, like, what do we do with all
our
the grandmas?
families will be doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, Grandma, you're eternal. We appreciate I have one at home. I have others in storage. So, all right. Here's the big question for Stafford. Okay, I give you an unlimited budget. Do you go Hasselblad? What do you do? How do you make it work?
Budget?
Yeah. What kind of do you go medium format? What do you do?
Do I have to pick one camera?
No, you can pick whatever you want.
No, your budget's
Well,
unlimited.
So if it's
Budget's unlimited.
unlimited, so I want to do more intimate work.
Yeah.
But by intimate, I mean sort of close in street type photography.
Right.
And I would like to get a Leica.
Yeah.
Because when you shoot with a Leica or that smaller format camera, you become less part of the event.
By the way, yes. I mean, when I show up with my cameras, I have a 600 millimeter lens. Yeah. It's like my grandson saw it for the first time. They've always been around my cameras, right? But my cameras are always big, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, it is a Canon," because it was like this long,
You needed extra support
right.
to hold the lens up.
And it's actually quite light, and it's a great. It's my favorite lens right now. But I mean, it's not intimate. It's presence. And I have 1D Mark IVs, which are big, heavy camera bodies. That anyway. I mean, how many cameras do you own? There you go.
So I probably own like 5 right now.
Okay.
But many of them are still film cameras, which I'm going to resurrect when I build my wet lab.
Your wet lab. By the way, used Leica. I just saw one the other day at B&H. Have you been to B&H, by the way, in person?
I have. Mm-hmm.
Isn't that...
It's dangerous.
Okay.
It's a great story.
You've been there.
I bought my camera from there.
You know.
Yeah.
Right? You know. Have you been there?
No,
You got to go.
I haven't.
It's okay. It's the greatest store. It's the greatest retail experience in the world. It's overwhelming. Right. It's owned by it's the camera store. It's in Manhattan.
Yeah.
On the lower west side, south, like just north of like the Battery area and stuff.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Kind of actually near. It's just west of Madison Square Garden, and it's owned by Orthodox Jews, and so you'll see the guys in their Orthodox gear. But then, like, it's the most incredible melting pot of people. First time I went there were Buddhist monks in there with large wads of cash buying camera gear. You know, it was amazing. So, but I think they had a Leica used for the nice price of $13,000.
Yeah. Well, you said unlimited budget.
Yeah.
That's used.
Yeah.
Have
Right.
you ever used a Holga?
I have used a Holga, and I like that whole style of doing things because of all the imperfections,
Yes.
and you have to
Yes.
go through a lot of them to find one
Right.
that like
A good-
feels they want to do
an
it.
image that you like.
Yeah,
Yeah. When I was teaching, I was in an elementary school, and we converted the kill room into a dark room, and we bought Holga cameras for.
Did you say kill room or kiln?
Kiln.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
The kill room did not go over well.
Those rooms do exist.
We would
in some schools.
never convert that room.
Yes.
And we aren't supposed to talk about it.
Yeah. No,
But,
dark room. Yeah.
Yeah. So we bought enough Holga cameras, a classroom set, and then we would take the kids out on field trips, and then taught them how to, develop their exposure.
In elementary?
4th grade.
That's awesome.
Whoa.
It was a wonderful, fun
Yeah.
unit for those kids, and
Yeah.
they did some awesome work.
Yeah, it's always neat to see a kid see a print
Yeah.
come alive
Yes.
in a bath of
And just
developer.
thinking of their
It's
size
really
and their
magic.
perspective too, like how different it would be than ours.
Yeah.
Well, and you were talking earlier about black and white versus color. So we'd shoot black and white, and then we bought these kits to colorize, like in the early 20s, maybe that was popular. And so we shot still lifes of fruit and developed them, and then they colorized just slightly because you don't want it to be overwhelming,
Right.
but turned into some really beautiful projects.
That's
I
cool.
love those alternative like a good friend of mine is doing a lot of work with pinhole cameras now,
Yeah.
which is
Oh, yeah.
really cool.
Would you get a rangefinder? Would that be one of your go-tos if you had it? That's
I just it's partly because I'm old school and I just like that feel and I like the look.
Yeah.
I like the way it works.
$9,000, by the way, at B&H.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
You're shopping.
It's a better deal.
Shopping right
Look,
now.
if I
It's coming down.
if I'm going to Manhattan, I'm going to B&H first. It's my favorite thing. It's so awesome. Interesting. Leica's got a little camera for $400 that shoots film.
Wow, I could do that.
Yeah, it's called
She's like, I'm in.
Sofort 2 It shoots instant film. So it's like maybe like a
Instant film.
It's like
it's like a little
Okay.
Polaroid.
type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe it kind of sucks.
Maybe not,
I
she's
don't-
not
I
in.
don't know. Yeah.
No, I like the dark room stuff.
you
Yeah.
like the dark room stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we had, when I was at UT, we had a Leica enlarger in
Oh,
the
really?
dark room, and everybody was scared of it.
Really?
So when I'd go into the dark room, it's like that one was always available.
Right.
So
How
I
funny.
always used the Leica.
And it was tack sharp.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Hasselblad has a new digital camera series for medium format digital photography. I would love to play with it. Because I would like to understand what the difference is, like in the feel of it. But they're also
Yeah.
$10,000.
I think at some point with those, at least nowadays, you're paying for the brand
Yeah.
because the technology's gotten so good that Canon, Sony, Pentax,
Yeah.
medium format cameras, they're all so good nowadays.
Well, that's the thing is I told people this all the time. People ask me like, well, why do you shoot Canon? And I'm like, well, because I got Canon glass. It's
Right.
part of the reason why. But I almost switched to Nikon, or back to. Originally, I was a Nikon shooter, but my view is that you really can't go wrong with any of the brands right now. Sony's outstanding.
Oh, good.
like, I went Canon mirrorless, and it doesn't have to be expensive either. And the other shocking thing is, I was watching that movie Civil War. I was like, okay, like a pack of really good 400 or 800 is like, $10 a roll for 36 exposures. I could buy a 1 terabyte memory card that'll shoot 10,000 images raw, with write speeds like that. I will never have to go back to it again. So
film's cool.
Yeah. Oh, it's cool. Don't get me wrong.
But it's become kind of a hipster thing.
Yeah.
Right now.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the whole thing about that movie. Is like, you know what, hipster, get your film camera out of my way. Anyway, it's kind of funny. Man, what a great conversation. I feel honored to have all three of you here. And Julie, of course, as well.
Thank you.
She's. I
was in photojournalism in high school, so I've been in a dark room.
You've been in a dark room. Know how to do it.
I don't know if I could remember it now.
Yeah.
Maybe pieces of it.
Yeah.
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 I would love to be able to do that again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I actually miss film too. Like I miss the.
Louis, can I put in a plug for something tonight at
Absolutely.
the Hunt store? I think it's starting at 5:30.
This is the benefit, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So one of our Hunt artists, Deanna Eichsman, her husband passed away unexpectedly.
Oh, okay.
A year or two ago.
He was a Marine, is
Yes,
that
he
right?
was a
Yes.
Marine.
Yeah.
And so they're having a fundraising benefit
At the Hunt store.
in his honor.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a live and a silent auction, and our pack of artists, we've all contributed work.
Oh, good.
So there'll be live music.
Yeah, I wasn't really. I told her. Someone sent me a note about it, and I put it in the newsletter and I put it on Facebook for us as well. And I was like,
Thanks.
absolutely. One of my things is like anything the veterans do, I'm going to put it out there, as benefits, because I know I wasn't really sure the context though, and I had a chance to ask about that. So
her husband was building a house for them.
Oh, really?
Out of shipping containers.
Oh, really?
And there were no plans. It was all in his head.
Yeah.
And so when he passed away unexpectedly.
How old was he?
55.
55?
I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Very unexpected.
Right.
So Deanna's been trying to figure out
how to get this
what's
done.
the vision, how to get it done, and she's had a heck of a time. So some friends, I think from her church, have organized this, and hopefully it'll help her out and she can finish her home.
Right. Absolutely. Well, yeah. Hopefully that's tough. So. And especially when I can see the vision, like I'm going to build this the way I want to build it. So, very cool, very cool. Any final thoughts from you, Julie Davis?
No final thoughts. I love this today.
Wasn't it great? I knew today was going to be an awesome show.
Yeah.
And then Stafford dropped Immanuel Kant onto this as well.
Yeah.
So
took us to the next level.
Okay, so listen, but Stafford, since you grew up in Portland. And you grew up or lived in Seattle. I mean, so who has better coffee, Portland or Seattle?
Oh.
Portland or Seattle?
Yeah.
I would probably have to say Seattle just because I love the Allegro coffee shop right across from the University of Washington.
Oh, nice. But you're not a fan of the original Starbucks, though, right? Although, isn't the original Starbucks like down by Pike's Place?
It's in Pike's Place.
Yeah.
But no, not a huge fan of the original Starbucks. I mean, Starbucks is great. It's fine. It's like predictable, but the Allegro is where you want to go.
You want to go
read a book, and drink
Nice.
a cup of coffee.
Are you guys kind of splitting time there? Do you are you here full time, or you go back there, or are you?
No, we're here full time.
Full time. Okay.
Yep.
All right. How's the coffee here at Pine Plow? Is it okay?
It's good.
It's good.
It's really good.
All right. I'm making sure.
It's the best.
By the way, if you want to come, the show today is brought to you by Caliche Coffee.
Speaking of coffee.
Speaking of coffee here, you can get it here at Pine Plow. It's back over here on my little area here. It's made over in the F word. We won't hold them against that, but it's cool. And I haven't tried the Ethiopian blend because I like the dark roast coffees, so I would recommend that. But the Hill Country blend is very nice and mild. You do legitimately get the chocolate heavy body of this one as well. I don't really care for walnuts, so I don't know. I don't taste walnuts in that. But take a look at that. All right. So what did you guys learn today? What did you learn, Nancy?
Well, I went back to my days in photography. I was out there looking at all the photos while y'all were in here talking before the thing began. And it's just like really amazing.
It was amazing.
It really is.
I just went over to Stafford and I was like,
see it.
I just shook his hand. It's like, I'm amazing, you know. What did you learn today, Laura?
Well, from Stafford, I'm thinking about the body of work that you create, and what was kind of bouncing around in my head is it's a narrative, and as an artist,
Right.
struggling,
Right.
searching for that same sort of thing.
Yeah. Right.
To my paintings.
Yeah. What did you learn today, Stafford? Anything? You taught us some stuff today, so I don't know. We learned from you.
The main thing I learned today is that, you know, I've been in Kerrville for just about a year now.
Yeah.
And I've been not struggling, but I've been looking for the art community.
It's here.
And I'm learning that it's here.
And it's here.
Good people, and there's good people to reach out to to learn a few things.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's here.
It's everywhere. It really is.
We need a photographer in the Hill Country Artists.
Yeah. Right.
There's a vacancy.
We don't have one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, photography, you know, is one of the things that I'm amazed by photography is that people sort of take it for granted. You know, I was mentioning before, one of my favorite photographers is a guy named Rick Saforza, who I worked with at a newspaper, and great guy, one of my favorite people of all time. We were planning to retire together and have cats, but that was what
It
part
could
of the,
still happen.
It could still happen. But he always has a sense of whimsy in his photography. Like, he finds the absurd, he finds the little sarcastic types of stuff, and I think that's amazing too. And I think that's what a good photographer finds, that, you know, or that sense of space or that sense of drama, things like that as well. But man, we had a great show today, didn't we?
We did. It's a good show.
What'd you learn? Anything?
What I learned? Well, I learned a couple of things.
Yeah.
One, I learned about the art show next weekend. I didn't know about that one.
Yeah.
And then when he made the comment about the beauty of the area being subtle, and I had never thought of it that way, and I really liked that.
It is a tremendous way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
So, well, there's
I don't know
nothing.
if I learned it,
there's
but
nothing
that was
subtle-
the thing that I will walk away with.
There's
like,
nothing subtle about this show, by the way.
That's true.
Before we go, I want to tell you real quick though about my deals idea. So you get a deal,
Okay.
right? It's just $25 a day.
Yeah.
And you can bring you on the well, we don't bring you on the show because I don't want to talk to any more people than I'm already talking to. But we're gonna put a little graphic up and say, here's the deal of the day. It's $25. You can go get it at the. What do you think about that idea? You like that?
I think it's a good idea. Yeah.
All right.
So will it only? Let's say I want Tuesday. I mean, will there only be one deal of the day?
No, we're gonna have multiple deals.
Okay.
We're gonna have multiple deals because I'm all about the money. I'm kind of
See
greedy.
how exclusive this is.
I've got to be greedy about some of this stuff. You know?
Okay.
Gotta get all the money. So there we go. Monday's show, Leslie will be back. I made a decision, by the way, yesterday. Libby Horton will be joining us as the new Wednesday co-host.
Cool. That'd be fun.
From Arcadia Live. So she'll be here on Wednesday. You'll be here on Tuesday. I don't know. I'm not going to be here next Friday.
Okay.
I'm being drugged to a retreat.
Oh.
The daughter has
Time to retreat.
The daughter has demanded that I go on a retreat with her to Laity Lodge.
Very nice.
Oh, nice.
I don't know.
There are worse things your daughter could drag you to.
I don't
Oh, yeah.
know. It just
Talk
seems
about
so
some subtle beauty.
Take
Yeah.
a camera
Oh, I will take a camera.
or
I've
three.
got lots of them. My grandsons were amazed how many cameras I own, so that was another story as well.
So no show at all.
No, Andrew Gay will be the host.
Okay.
It'll be at his
Okay.
place. So I'll
Okay.
probably be over at Texas Country Advisors on Friday. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Have a great weekend. This cool, wet weather apparently is going to leave us, and then we'll have back to hot, sticky, gross weather. But hopefully we get some more rain. You know, we'll see what happens. All right, everybody. Thanks a lot for joining us. Well, have a great rest of your day. We'll see you guys again on Monday.
No holding back, no stepping stones, no broken promises, no busy tones. Just what it takes, just make believe.